and welcome to your Lab 4 demonstration video. So in this week's lab, we're going to do, just like the lecture, an introduction to Git, GitHub, and HTML5. We're going to configure our development environment, identify the basic pages or elements of a web page. You should be able to describe HTML syntax, tags, attributes, and values by the end of this. We're actually going to create a page, preview it in a browser. I'm actually going to show you how to preview it right within Visual Studio Code because it's awesome. We're going to use Git for version control. We're going to add our code to our GitHub repository, or repo as they're commonly referred to, and post it to our web server. So let's pull this to the side and get underway, shall we? Whoa, there it is again. I've got this running on my Windows 10 VM, so I can kind of segregate where things are. And I'll show you how to do some stuff. So first thing you're going to need to do is create a GitHub account. You can navigate to github.com. There's a link embedded, and create an account. Now, if you already have one, that's okay. You can just use the one you have. But you should add your college email to your GitHub account. You might also wish to add a personal email address if you're creating a new one, but you should create your college, or create it using your college email, because you're going to need to access. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Oh, it's the next part. We're going to be able to access the GitHub Student Developer Pack. So next, we're going to access GitHub Classroom. We're going to set up Git with Visual Studio Code and do everything. And everything we're using here is commonly used in web development, in industry. It's free. It's open source. It's all awesome. So I'm not going to do this next part, but you should click this link here. I'll do it, but I'm not going to actually do the assessment. Actually, I think I already have it. Click that link there, and set up your Introduction to Git and GitHub assignment. And once it's been created, you can just click there and read through all this stuff and submit it. Now, to submit it, all you have to do is edit this page somewhere. But I want to point out some things. In the optional next steps, you are required to add your name, which should be in here somewhere, to your profile, and a short bio. Without those, you won't be able to access the Student Developer Pack, which is something we're getting free through GitHub. That comes with free access to a whole bunch of industry tools and services, including a couple options to register a free domain name, which you're going to need for assignment 1. So you're going to want to do that. You might also want to install the GitHub mobile app on your phone. It gives you access to your GitHub profile and your repos from the comfort of your smartphone, which is pretty awesome. And you can also add two-factor authentication to secure your GitHub account with the app installed on your phone. That bang in the background was me clumsily picking up my phone. I don't know why. Normally in class I pick it up and say, hey, do this, but I'm in front of I don't even have a camera on me, right? So you're going to want to do that. So, before we get too underway, we need to set up some stuff first. And I actually need to spin up the instance in AWS, so let me do that. All right, so I've spun up AWS. Everything's going. We can see my WW instance is running. We actually need to access that. Let me just move that to the side. From the command line. Oh, I need that thing back. Hold on. We're going to need to access that from the command line so we can import some stuff. Oh, I just saw a bunch of crap on my screen. It's okay, it was just, the video's on YouTube. Nice. That's what I was looking for. So this command here SSH in. I'm just going to do it from here because this is just easier right now. And it's an option, so why not? I'm just going to use the instance connect. Then I don't have to copy stuff back and forth. So there we go. We're in. And if you haven't already created your GitHub account, you're going to want to have done that before you get to this point. We're going to create on www. I connected to www, didn't I? Double check. Yeah, I'm in the right one. We're going to want to create SSH keys. We're going to create a 4096-bit RSA key pair and use our GitHub account email address. And then add that key to our GitHub configuration so we can pull stuff in from our GitHub repo that has nothing in it yet right into our instance. So we're going to issue the command SSH keygen-t RSA, so T for type, -b, the number of bits, it's going to be 4096, -c, so this is going to be for your GitHub username. This is my GitHub username. And there we go, it's generating a public-private key pair. Select defaults, we want to share it there. And you should probably provide it a secure passphrase. Hopefully I typed it the same twice, and look at that. There it is. Now we're going to test it with GitHub. And we can do that using SSH-uppercase T git at github.com. And say yes. And we didn't actually put it in GitHub. So we need to do that. So you're going to want to cat the cat command .sh in your home directory id rsa.pub, and this is what we need here. Let's copy that, and we're going to paste that into GitHub, which I need to get there. Give me a moment. There you go. So if you actually click that link in the lab, which I should have done in a new window, it's going to take you right where you need to go. You might need to log in, but here's what we need here. And you're going to click Add New SSH Key. We're going to give it a title. And paste our key in. Say add. And look at that. I have one. Yes, I have one previously. That's because, well, I used that previously. Let's go back to our learner lab and test it again. And it should hopefully work this time. Look at that. It worked. So it failed the first time because we hadn't added the key. But once we added the key, it works. See, it shows my username, and I've successfully authenticated. So that means when we're ready to pull stuff in, we're going to be able to do it. Isn't that great? I think that's great. So, on to the next bit. I need to go back into my, done here for now, but we're going to come back to this later. Back to my instance here. Virtual machine. I need to scroll down and use this link to set up my lab 4 and 5 repository. So we're going to use one repository for labs 4 and 5. We're going to then copy the code or contents of that into the next repository that you set up for labs 6 through 10 and assignment 1. But we'll worry about that when we get there. So let's click that link. You shouldn't see that reaccept thing. I don't know why that, well, it came up because I did stuff. We say accept assignment. And there we go. It's creating a repository. Just give it a minute. it's been created. Awesome. And look, it even shows you where you can just click that to apply for the GitHub Student Developer Pack. That's pretty great. You're going to see the due date here. It's probably not July 22nd for you because your course doesn't start until September. Just throwing that out there. And if we click here, you're going to be able to access your repo. Now there's nothing in there really. There's a few things that I had it auto-populate, like the license and the README. Says you're going to use this repository for labs 4 and 5, and they're going to teach you introductory HTML and CSS3. If you're reading this, you've successfully cloned your repository. So that's what we want to see. Now once we're in here, we can open this in code spaces, which I'm going to show you how to do in a second. But I also want to show you how to install Visual Studio Code on your personal computer. And then you'll get a better idea what we're looking at in code spaces. So to get into code spaces from here, there's a couple places you could do this actually. Through GitHub Classroom, you could just straight up open it there. Or once you're in the repo, you can also open it right here. Isn't that great? Or you can go to Code, Code Spaces, Create Code Space on Main. Give it a minute. It needs to set things up. See, it's initializing it. Wow, that's actually really fast. Now what Code Spaces actually is Visual Studio Code running accessible through your browser. How that works, it's actually running on an Ubuntu container in Azure, in Microsoft Azure, because this is, or Windows Azure, Microsoft Azure? Azure. Because GitHub is owned by Microsoft. Do we want to... There's a pull request. Yeah, I'm just going to ignore that for now. Let's just ignore that for now. So here's our code space. Now that we've got this, I'm going to show you how to set it up in Windows, and it's actually really easy. It's even easier. Got lots of stuff going on here. So if we go to the Windows Store, Microsoft Store I should say, we're going to search for Visual Studio Code. So before I get carried away, GitHub Code Spaces, you can use that on the college PCs. It's great, and you can access it on your phone, or if you've got a tablet or something, you can do stuff anywhere. You just need a web browser, and all your stuff syncs through the cloud and GitHub. That's great. That's exactly what we want. But on your home computer, you might actually want to install Visual Studio Code. The workflow is a little bit different, but then you have the application running on your computer. So if we see Visual Studio Code right there, we click install. It's downloading. Shouldn't take long. There's also Windows, or there is Windows. This is the Windows installer. There's Linux installers. There's Mac OS installers. For Mac OS, you just get it through the Apple Store. I think there's a Visual Studio Code website link on the lab page that shows you how to get everything. So I'm going to launch this here. Oh look, it's right there. Now the first time, we're going to want to do a couple things. You might need to install Git, which I had this installed before, so it was probably already installed. So there's a button here to install Git. It automates the process for you. And it apparently kept me signed in. Let's sign in with GitHub. So we just open that. Say yes. And let's grant access for that too. It might take you to a login through the browser, and hey look, I'm signed in. So that's awesome. Now that we have access to that, what the hell are we going to do with it? Well, in Visual Studio Code. In our browser, in GitHub code spaces. We're going to create our first web page. We've got everything we need here. I'm skipping a few steps in the lab. Read through the lab instructions. We're going to write some code. Oh, look, it pulled in our settings. That's pretty awesome. So we're going to create a web page. So we click New here, New File. And we're going to call this index.html. There we go. And we're going to insert some tags. So we're going to insert the opening HTML tag, and notice it automatically enters the closing tag and structures your document for you. Structuring your document is a really important thing. And I'm going to show you a resource for that quickly after we're done. We're going to enter our opening head tag and our body tag. We're going to fill these with things in a minute. Don't worry, I'm just getting the basic page structure thrown up. And we're going to add our doc type declaration. So remember that tells the browser what to expect. And the HTML5 or living standard, whatever you want to refer to it as, that's the doc type that we use. So there we go. There's our page started. Now first we're going to add some title and some meta tags. So let's do our title first. Whoops. This is one thing I don't like about autocomplete. It autocompletes errors as well. So it replicates your errors. That's just lovely. I'm going to call this first page, and I'm going to add a couple meta tags. Meta tags are tags that provide additional information about our page. The first one we're using is character set, and we're going to set it to UTF-8, which is Unicode encoding, and name equals author, content equals, this should be your name. I'm going to use my name because I'm writing this. The sample I gave you on the lab instruction says Linus Torvalds. Obviously, I assume you're not him. I don't think he's taking an introduction to web design class at Centennial College, as he was the creator of Linux. But you never know, he could be. And if you are, hi Linus. Welcome to my class. I'm assuming you're probably not Linus though. I assume he's not here. And that's it for the head for now. That's it, we're done. It's going to be a very boring first web page. So we're going to add a heading. Now heading should be used in order of importance, starting with H1 being the most important and H6 being the least important. So you use these for your subheadings to structure your document accordingly. We're going to add an H1, your name's homepage, because that's what this page is going to ultimately end up being. We're going to add a paragraph. Tell me what you hope to learn from this course. Maybe a bit about you. And we're going to add a comment to the top of the body. Comments aren't used a lot in HTML and CSS, but they're useful for some things. And in this case, you're going to add a comment with your name and your student number. And I'm putting all zeros because, well, I'm not putting my employee on the internet. That's just silly. You need to do this for every page you submit for this course. It's just a sanity check, right? We are officially done writing HTML. We got 13 lines of HTML in there. Isn't that great? So let's save this. And now you're going to see the Git workflow. If you're doing this from, well, actually it might throw that error here as well. Let's find out. But if you're doing this from Visual Studio Code installed on your desktop, you might need to follow the steps that I included about configuring your username and email. I don't think I have to do that here. I'm going to go to Source Control. I'm going to stage my changes. So we go to Changes, the 3 dots here, right? Click that, Changes, Stage All Changes. What that does is if you're making a whole bunch of changes that you're going to commit, it packages them together into one nice fancy commit. And then we're going to provide a commit message and click the commit button and synchronize our changes. And it's done. It's in GitHub. Isn't that great? You can actually just refresh here and hey, look, there it is. That's great. Now we're going to go clone it into our repo and access it through a browser. It's going to be awesome. Oh, I wanted to show you one more thing. You can preview this. Just right there, click Show Preview. Open in browser, there we go. Holy shit, there's our web page. It's not super fancy, but this is the first web page you've written. Maybe you did some in high school. I did, but it was horrible. So yeah, and we can just actually close that. And anytime we make a change here, you can refresh and you'll see it right here. Isn't that awesome? So you can do all that before you commit. I meant to show you that sooner. I forgot. Things happen. So, back to AWS. We need our instance. Here we are. So we're going to make sure we're in www, which we are, right? And we're going to issue the command git clone git at github.com /cnet 204 /labs -assignment case matters here -1 your username. Type your passphrase. Let me go see if that exists. Hold on. That should exist. I made a mistake. I need to update the lab instructions, which I will have done by the time we get there. That's not what we're calling this. No wonder I got an error. So it should be labs 4-5 and then your username. And there we go. All our stuff's here. Isn't that great? Now it's all here, but it's not exactly where we want it to be. We want that to be in document root, which is var www HTML. How are we going to get it there? Watch this. We're going to copy it. cp-r recursively. Labs 4-5. Don't forget the star at the end. var www HTML. Enter. And now you should be able to access it by checking it out in using your Elastic IP. So we just click open address there, or you can copy paste it in the browser. And if it's, remember to change the HTTPS to HTTP. And there it is. There's the web page that you just wrote running on the instance that you created last week, the Apache instance. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. I'm excited about that. So it should look something like this. If it doesn't, go back and complete the things that you missed. As far as a submission for this, you need to take a screenshot showing this running on your server. So I need to see the browser URL, the browser bar with the URL in it right there. And the submission in, so that submission goes to, there's an assignment folder on eCentennial. There's actual code submission is already done. It's in GitHub. You did it as part of the lab. Isn't that awesome? You should also check to see if your code validates using the validator. So let's show you what that looks like. Just gonna snap that to the side, and let's snap this to this side here. Hopefully my code validates. That would be, well, it wouldn't be the worst thing that's happened to me, but I got a warning. That's okay. We're gonna fix this in the assignment, in the first assignment. So don't worry about that warning. This is good enough as far as validation goes. We're done. That's awesome. So with all that in mind, take care, be safe, have a great week, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye for now.